Okay, here we go. So tonight's talk, this might change your life, so pay attention. This is a talk that I heard C.Fu Brown give years and years, about 20 years ago. It didn't change my life. It is based on this pretty simple acronym for goals that some of you guys have heard some variation of in the past, I'm sure. That's going to be kind of like the framework for it. But I want to talk just a little bit more in general about this idea of New Year's resolutions and setting goals, because it's something that we quite honestly suck at. Like, as human beings, we just don't know how to get stuff done. When it's important, when these are big things that are big ideas and kind of important to us, we have a tendency to just kind of fail to get started, or to always get overwhelmed by these amazing things that we want to accomplish. And so this is designed to help us get things done. This is not a talk that you should listen to and think, that's a really nice idea, and then not do anything with it. This is a talk that you should go home and do something with it immediately. Or you can go get your notebook and do something with it, like right at the end of class, or as you're sitting in your car furiously putting stuff into your calendar and your cell phone. When I talk about New Year's resolutions, I talk from lots of experience of failing in them, as most of us do have that experience of, it's a new year, and I've got all of these grandiose plans, and I'm thinking, this is the year that I'm finally going to write that novel. This is the year that I'm going to run that triathlon, which I'm actually doing this year. I'm going to run an Olympic length triathlon. And it is very easy to say, I'm going to do this, and very easy to let that be all that you do. I said it, and then I didn't do anything else. I had it as an idea in my head. It's a really nice idea, and that's all that it ever is. It's as connected to reality as like a puff of smoke. It doesn't do anything if it's just here. So oftentimes what we have is, I'll use my triathlon as a kind of concept that you guys can plug in whatever it is that you want to do. But we usually say, I'm going to get in shape this year. And it is not a mystery to any of us what it takes to get in shape. We all know that you got to eat right and you got to exercise. And, there might be other things that you think about. I should stretch, or I should do this, or I should do that. If you're really smart, you think I should meditate too, because I should be in mental shape. But it is not really a mystery what you should do, at least in general. People get that. But the space between knowing that I should eat healthful foods and work out, exercise, and actually doing those things is not this much space. It's not this close. It is, as I said this morning, is a Grand Canyon chasm between knowing, understanding, and doing. And I mean, it is like, I want you guys to think about this, and you can close your eyes if you want to, and you can imagine I'm standing on one side of the Grand Canyon, and I look, and all the way on the other side of the Grand Canyon is my goal. And my goal is, there's a little cactus over there that I want to take a picture of, take a selfie in front of it. And I look at it, and it's all the way over there, and I say, that's what I want to do. And then I say, I don't know how to do this, I give up. And that's as far as we get oftentimes with our goals. Because it seems like an insurmountable, overwhelming task. And that space is very real, because when we look at the goal or the resolution in those big terms, in those general terms only, we don't really know what to do when it comes down to it. So we have to be able to break it down in manageable chunks. And this is what that acronym of SMART goals is all about. If you read the challenge of the week this week, the SMART was all in caps. It wasn't because we're really trying to emphasize that they should be SMART goals. It's because it stands for something. So the variation that I like to use is the S stands for specific, the M stands for measurable, the A stands for achievable, the R stands for reasonable, and the T stands for timely. And if you look through your goal and check, is this meeting all of these criteria, you will end up with something that is actionable, something that you can actually take action on and start working on it tomorrow or tonight. So we're going to use my triathlon. I have never run a triathlon. I've never run anything more than a 5K. This is going to be a 10K run. This is going to be a 0.9 mile swim, and this is going to be a something bike ride, 20 miles-ish. I'm not good at any of these things. I swam about one length of the pool when I got in the pool the other day and realized I'm not good at swimming. I don't know how to breathe in the situation. I'm great at breathing if I'm doing martial arts. If I'm out of water, I have really great control over my breath. In fact, if I'm scuba diving, I have great control over my breath. Scuba diving is a lot of fun. It's like meditation. But when I'm right there on the edge between water and air, the water goes right into my lungs. So I've got to get the technique for that. Running, I'm bad at running. And I like to make the joke, I do martial arts so that I don't have to run, but the truth is, I don't run because it hurts, because I don't know how to do it well. And biking, yeah, I'm probably fine at biking, but I'm sure that it's still going to be hard. All of these things taken into consideration, I still think of doing this Olympic length triathlon, and I think, I'm in pretty good shape. I could probably just show up and do it that day. And I know logically that that is not correct. I could drown in the first leg of this. So I have to break it down into manageable chunks. So I've already made it specific. I've got to be able to do this triathlon. And that is one step further than most people get, which is just leaving it at, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to get in better shape this year. So it's specific, doing the triathlon. It's measurable because I have to finish it. I can't just show up that day, doggy paddle in the ocean a little bit and say, well, I tried my best. I've got to complete it. Achievable. It is something that is technically achievable for me, and probably for any of you guys, and most people listening. Reasonable, it's not going to be reasonable for everybody listening to this to just say, this year, and it's in September, I've got a decent amount of time, but this year I'm going to do a triathlon by September. That's not reasonable for some people. For me, it's reasonable because I am in decent shape, and I have people who can help me with it, and I can make it happen. But some of you should see your doctor before deciding to run a triathlon or do a triathlon. And timely. It's timely because it's got to be by the end of the year, is by September. And all of that is still not enough. Because what I really need to do is break it down and look at it. By September, I want to be able to do all of this. 0.9 mile swim, 10K run, and 20-ish miles of biking. And I've got to break it down into things that I can, increase slowly but surely to be able to accomplish this by the end of it. So I'm not just thinking, okay, in September I'm going to do this thing. I'm thinking, what do I need to do today to get myself ready to be able to do this in many months from now? So I start with a swim because that's the part that I'm the worst at, the part that I could actually die trying to do. So I say, what I'm going to do? This is, let's say it's equivalent to 40 length of the pool. Today I'm going to do 1 length. All right, tomorrow I'm going to do 1.5. The next day I'm going to do 2. And I'm just going to build up and get to that point where, for me, what I'm deciding is I'm doing it by length. You might decide, you know what, I'm going to do it by time. So if I were taking on this triathlon, I would say I'm going to spend 20 minutes swimming today. The next day I'm going to spend 25, or the next week I'm going to spend 30, and kind of break it down by that. So I know, I don't have this part actually specifically mapped out yet. I'm doing this with somebody who's going to tell me exactly what to do. So they're in charge of that. But I've got to break it down to this day, this week, this month. This is exactly what I'm doing with the swimming part, with the running part, with the biking part. I've got to go buy a bike. I've got to buy goggles. I've got to do that stuff too. And I've got to write all this stuff down and tell people that I'm doing it. So that all of a sudden, what appeared to be just across the Grand Canyon, this impossible task, this impossibly kind of vague and difficult to achieve thing, now I've got it broken down to this first step, which is tomorrow. And this is what I'm doing. Tomorrow I'm waking up and I'm going to get in the pool and I'm going to swim. I guess I'll just decide right now what I'm going to do. I'm going to swim five lengths before I'm done and get out of the pool. Five lengths, not 5 laps, because 5 laps would kill me. I'm going to do that. And that means that when I wake up tomorrow, I don't think triathlon is too much. I'm going to go back to bed. I wake up and I say, get in the pool, 5 lengths. That's it. That's all that I have to do. That's the first step. And then when I'm standing there, I know what the next step is and the next step is. So instead of just seeing this thing way off in the distance that's impossible, I see this thing that there is for me to do today. And then I see the next thing that there is for me to do the next day, and then the next day. And this is, it's not the simplest idea, but it's fairly simple. The trick is to just do it. The trick is to take your big thing that you want to achieve, let's say it's writing a novel, and break it down to, I've got to have this many pages done by this, I've got to spend this much time, and decide, okay, that means that tomorrow I got to wake up and spend an hour writing, and I'm going to do that thing. And that's it. That simplicity, that ability to break it down into this chunk of action is really the difference between this thing getting done and not getting done. And for me, when I started martial arts, this is one of the things that changed me more than anything else. I started setting New Year's resolutions, which sounded like, this year I'm going to meditate every day. I'm going to meditate for this much time every day. These are in my opinion, the best types of resolutions to set, the easiest types of goals, because it's just a thing that I have to do before I go to sleep. And if I haven't done it, I do it, and that's it. It doesn't require a lot of planning. It doesn't require anything super complicated. It's just, this is the thing that I said I was going to do, and I do it. And once we get good at setting these goals, these manageable goals, and then achieving them, it fundamentally changes your relationship with life and the world. Because then anything that you set out to do, that you've put some thought into and you know how to do it, you do. And it's not even that I can do it, it's that I do it. And then you become all-powerful. You are like the genie in Aladdin, but without the lamp and being a slave to the wishes and all that stuff. I mean, you can actually you can move mountains. Like, you could literally make a goal of moving a mountain and say, okay, today I'm going to move this rock over there. And you will eventually do it. This is one of the things that I noticed was just completely different about my life after just that first goal. And I think my first goal was actually just to do it for 6 months, because I went to a meditation talk and Sifu Brown said, you should set a goal of doing it for 6 months, every single day, meditate for 6 months, and at the end of it, see how you are. And of course, I felt much more calm and peaceful. My mind was much more focused. But the other part of it that we don't usually think about is I got on a very visceral level, on a very real level, that now I can do anything that I set out to do. And that then leads to, possibilities opening up like crazy. The question of the week this week is, how much control do we really have over our lives, or something like that? And I think it's kind of worded in a way that you could take to be very defeatist, like, how much control do we really have, really? Well, I hear that question with my demented martial arts goal-setting brain, and I think, how much do we have over, control over our lives? It's a lot of control. Like, really, if you understand how to do this, then it becomes the type of thing that, I was talking this morning about the weather. You can control the weather, because all you have to do is do what I did. I was living in Michigan, practicing martial arts, and I'd wake up every day and the only thing that I wanted to do was go practice martial arts, because for half of the year it's miserable. You can't go outside. And I thought, I'd wake up, I'd be in college, and I'd wake up and I'd walk outside, and after 5 minutes, my knee hurts. Why does this hurt? My ear hurts. It's so cold that it feels like somebody's stabbing me in the ear with a needle. And I'd be like this. I'm like 20 years old, hobbling to class, and I'd all covered with scarves and things. And I just said to myself one day, I'm not staying here. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm way too much of a baby in the cold. I cannot live my life in this place. I've got to change the weather. So I decided, right then and there, I'm moving to California. That is the way that I'm going to control this. And certainly, we do not have control over absolutely every facet of life. And if you try to, you're going to be unhappy. You cannot actually control everything. But you'd be very surprised, right? If you can control the weather, you should look out and see, what else can I actually affect? What kinds of changes can I make in my life? I heard this wonderful talk. You should watch this talk. It's better than this talk that I'm giving. It's by a Stanford professor, and it's about designing your life. And some of you guys maybe even heard it. And most of the stuff that this professor says, I agree with. And one of the interesting things that he talked about was very similar to an exercise that I had done in the past with Sifu Brown at the martial arts school back in Michigan, which was think about what you want to do 5 years out. And what we did was we decided, this is my ideal life. This is what I want to be able to do. This is what I want to be doing in 5 years. This is how I'm going to get there. And we did what Sifu Brown used to call a lazy man's visualization, which is you would write out all of the wonderful things that happened in that day, and then you would record it. And back then, it was we had to record it onto a CD or a cassette tape. Now you can just put it on your phone, and you'd listen to it. And as you're listening to it, you should retell this day, this ideal day 5 years from now, with as much detail and emotion and feeling as possible, because that makes it more real for you. And then you start to actually act in a way that brings this about. This talk went a little bit further and said, okay, so first, it was talking in this section kind of about careers. He said, imagine that you have your career right now, this is what you're doing, and 5 years from now, what is the best place that you are in? You've done this with your career, you've done this with your personal life, you've accomplished all of this stuff. So really know what that is 5 years from now. But then use this as a brainstorming session. So then the second option is you want to have a second life. The second life, which is, in an alternate universe, is what if my job cannot be done by me. Now it's done by robots. Artificial intelligence does this, which I personally think is going to take a long time before a robot can teach martial arts, but who knows, it could happen. So what is the other thing that you're going to do? Like, what is your next option? The thing that you could really see yourself doing as a career? And then how does that change everything else? So what else does your life look like? Well, now that I'm not doing this, I'm doing this. What are the ideal circumstances, the things that I can really surround myself with in that situation? All right, then take your third scenario. The third scenario is, I don't have to worry about money. It does not matter, and it doesn't matter what people think of me. I'm just doing the thing that is like my pie in the sky dream. This is what I do, and it doesn't even have to be a job. I just travel around the world, or I, ride ponies, or whatever it is that you want to do. And then what does the rest of your life look like in that situation? What are all of the amazing details and things that you have built in your life where you have no restrictions really around money or time, or your parents telling you can't do that, or your friends and family telling you you're an idiot, what's wrong with you? So I thought what's really interesting about this is you'll end up with some nonsense in that third life, stuff that you won't do and can't do. But you'll end up with some stuff that actually never occurred to you in this life, or even maybe in your second life with that other job, your fallback job. And you'll realize, like, this is some stuff that actually, if I get to work on it, if I make some smart goals and I start taking action, I can take this stuff from the most ideal life and make it happen in this life right here. So this is a exercise that I really recommend that you guys try. And it's just a brainstorming exercise that kind of gets you out of the box that we're normally stuck in, where we're thinking, in terms of what's just slightly different or just a little bit beyond what I already have here. You want to be able to dump that box out and start with a completely new something. And then from there, see, what can I put into this life? And this is related to a subtle part of the SMART acronym, that reasonable thing, where you should have reasonable goals. You should certainly have goals that in the time that I've set out and with my resources, this is something that I can do. But you should also have unreasonable goals, at least one thing that you need to be a different person in order to achieve. You have to actually take some of that other life, that life that you're not living in right now, and you got to inject that like fantasy into this. You have to transform yourself as a person in order to achieve this thing. And you might notice that I said it, I'm going to do it, I'm taking the first steps, but I'm still kind of not sure that I can do this. So just taking the action and taking that next step might be the thing that actually transforms you and changes you fundamentally as a person, as a human being. So, as normal, I've run over time, but these are the actionable things that you guys are going to do when you leave this talk. You're going to choose at least 3 things. I would say no more than 10 things. 10 is a lot for most people. 3 things is a good place to start. Have 2 goals that are reasonable, 1 goal that is unreasonable, 1 goal that you have to change who you are in order to achieve. Make it specific, measurable, achievable, reasonable or unreasonable, and timely. Make it specific and write these things out and tell people, as many people as you can. And somebody came up to me this morning and said, I actually read an article that said that if you tell people, it makes you less likely to achieve it, because you kind of have the party and pat yourself on the back right in that moment when you say, I'm going to do this thing. And I totally agree that you kind of get a little bit of the benefit of setting the goal by just telling people and kind of living in that world of, yeah, I'm doing it. But if you tell a lot of people and you tell them, I want you to keep me accountable, hold me accountable for this goal that I have set. It no longer is just like a pat you on the back. It's like, ooh, I said it, and now I have to actually do this thing because people are going to ask me about it. And the best people in your life to tell are the most cynical. Oh, you think you're gonna do a triathlon this year? Okay. And every time they see you, they're gonna ask you, how's that going? How's your training going? Oh, you did how many laps in the pool today? And those people are gonna kind of, this is again kind of like using your ego to battle against itself, kind of. But your ego is gonna feel that pressure and say, well, now I got to step up and do it. And it's especially funny if you do it with something like meditation, which is at its core an exercise in getting beyond the ego. But if you tell everybody in your life, I'm meditating every day this year, I'm meditating every day for a half an hour, or that was last year, I'm meditating every day for an hour, and you get people asking you about it, and you're in your mind, you lay in bed, and you think, yeah, this is a good day, and then your eyes open up like this, and you say, oh, I didn't meditate yet. I told Catherine that I was going to meditate, and I didn't do it, and she's going to ask me about it tomorrow. And so then you go, drag yourself out of bed, and you sit down and you do it, because you know that pressure is there. But do that with anything and with everything. And the most important part of it, you've written it out, you've made it incredibly detailed, step-by-step instructions for you that you will follow. You've told lots of people, put it on social media or whatever, but actually call people, text them, tell them about it. And the third thing you have to do is to do it. You have to take, even if it's the first step, right? So it's that first lap in the pool, it's that I see that thing on the other side of the Grand Canyon, I got to take my first step in this path. If you wait, you say, I'm going to start next week. Next week turns into next month. Next month turns into next year. Well, it's been too long. I'll keep this one in my back pocket. I'm going to do it next year. You miss one day, okay. The next day, you get right back on it. And taking that first step is, again, oftentimes the difference between not achieving this and actually achieving it. It's the difference between just looking at that thing on the other side of the Grand Canyon and actually getting there. So if meditation is one of your goals this year, you're about to do some of that right now. Sit comfortably.